Oh no. What the heck? All characters will lose HP? Dude, you are killing me. She's gonna die. She's gonna die. Holy crap. I'm gonna die. I did. I died. They are actually losing HP. Gene, you have to get your ult back, Gene. Oh my god.
Everyone has their limits.
What the heck? That's not fair. This might get some side eyes or some hate. I don't know. But, you know, I just played the Imaginarium Theater, and to be honest, I didn't think it was that bad. It was actually a lot better than what I expected it to be, because I've been looking at the reviews and looking at opinions over the past couple of weeks, and basing it on those few opinions, I expected to come in here hating it. But I didn't. And I don't know, I guess as someone who's been around this game since the beginning, it kind of catered to me a little bit more than some other players, but I can see some inherent design flaws, don't get me wrong. It's just, from my personal standpoint and my personal position and the condition of my account and everything like that, it felt like it did more right than wrong. But at the same time, I understand that that's a very personal position due to my own circumstances and my own account and what I'm looking for in the game. See, I think that's where a lot of the hate comes from, is that there's so many different people playing this game looking for different things out of it. Players build specific teams, and they build specific characters for those teams. They have a vision in mind, and they want to, you know, use their characters in the way they see fit. I'm also of that belief, I'm also of that camp. I build certain characters and certain teams, and I want to use those as I see fit as well. And I believe that's where Imaginarium Theater really misses the mark for a lot of players, because you can't just use your characters as you want. Heck, you can't even use them at all if they're not part of the elemental lineup, but for me, it goes a little beyond that. See, the problem I just outlined lies with vertical investment. For someone who has strongly invested in just a few teams or a few characters, it probably does feel pretty bad to be told you can't use this character. As a matter of fact, you can't use that whole team, and if you don't have these other characters, then you're just out of luck. Look, I get it, that really does kind of suck. There's really no way around that part. But from the other end of the spectrum, extreme horizontal investment, it kind of delivered for me personally. While I do have a few very strong teams, like my Navia team and my Yoimiya team, they're not the only characters I've ever pulled, and they're not the only characters I've ever invested in either. I have so many characters on my account that just really don't get used because there are better options. When I go into the Abyss, Hu Tao is an option for Pyro, my Yanfei is an option for a Pyro, but why would I not just play my Yoimiya, which is actually way better than both of those? And yet, just because she is better than those, doesn't mean I never want to use those. I've been looking for a reason to bring out these characters. That's kind of what I've been looking for personally in a new in-game mode, you know? Something that really makes me say, well, sure I have Yoimiya, but maybe I do need Hu Tao. Maybe I do need to bring out Yanfei. And on that front, it kind of delivered. Imaginarium Theater did exactly that. Did I use my Yoimiya? Yes, but I wasn't allowed to solely rely on her. And as I went through the character select options and saw my options dwindling and dwindling, I didn't feel frustrated with it. I was kind of excited. Like, dude, I was going to be playing my Yanfei. Do you know how long it's been since I needed to play my Yanfei? It's been ages. I can't even tell you. It's probably been ever since, like, year 1 or something. Now, it is worth noting that without the special guest character and the supporting characters and the trial characters, that I probably just would not have been able to do this. Like, I think I would have been boned. I used my own Alhaitham as a guest so I could have some Dendro in there, and then I used a friend's Baiju so I could have some healing and some more Dendro, and then I used Arlecchino and Toma for trial characters. So with the Baiju, Arlecchino, and Toma, 3 out of the 18 characters were not mine, but 15 of the characters were. And I think that was a pretty good benchmark, because what that says to me is, I still need to do some investing. I still have something to work towards. For so long, Genshin has felt like a solved game for me. I haven't really felt like I've needed to do anything past what I already have. Sure, when I get a new character, I build them, but it's always in the back of my mind, for what? For what purpose? Why am I continuing to do this? What is the purpose of pulling and building new characters when the old characters work just fine? Why would I bring out that Yanfei? Why would I bring out that Hu Tao? Exactly. But see, what this mode is doing, what this mode did, is make even my account feel inadequate. I really do feel like I need to be putting some work into these characters now, because I did have some of the options that were available there, but they weren't built enough for me to use them, so I had to rely on some of the trial characters, and some of my friends' supporting characters. Most players, myself included, want somewhere we can use our teams that we've built. But I go a little bit beyond that, because I don't just want somewhere to use the teams I've built, I kind of want somewhere to use all the characters I pulled. And yet, here's a mode where even the characters I have built aren't enough. It gave purpose to some of my characters, and made me feel like I need to be doing even more to build them up. And this will seem biased and maybe a little bit exclusive, and I don't mean it in any kind of snobby way, but this is kind of what an in-game mode does. Some of the criticism I've seen of this mode concerns the fact that newer players probably don't have enough characters on their account to challenge it. But I see this mode as more than just an in-game mode, it's a late end-game mode. We're leaving Fontaine and heading into Natlan soon. This might sound kind of harsh, but I think that just means that newer players should probably keep on building and playing the game until they have a sizable enough roster that can take on the mode. However, I'm not entirely forgiving here. I do think the mode's requirements are a bit steep. I mean, even for myself I had to rely on a couple of trial characters. It wouldn't hurt if they allowed a couple more. And it wouldn't hurt if they allowed another support character either. Even as someone with a large roster, I'm saying that, so I'm not saying to completely stiff new players, but there is an audience for this game mode. Some of us have been dreaming for a chance to use multiple characters, but that also brings me to the other end of the discussion. Not just the new players, but the older players, because there are several older players that aren't happy with this mode either. The 2 biggest complaints I've seen from veteran players concern the fact that 1, you can't use whatever characters you want, and 2, that it's too easy. Concerning not being able to use your own characters, it's like, I get it I guess, but on the other end, if you could just use whatever character you want, you're just gonna default back to the same old team you always use. If I could have used my Yoimiya in every fight, then there would have been no reason for me to bring on the Yanfei or Hu Tao. The fact that I couldn't use my Yoimiya in every fight means that it was actually necessary for me to bring those characters. And obtaining the characters at random times was actually kind of fun and was something to look forward to. Because I remember when I finally did get my Yoimiya, I was like, oh yeah, it's go time. But even after getting her, it was like, do I want to use her now? Do I want to wait until later? And these questions were made very real by the fact that the characters are benched after you use them a couple of times. And that made things pretty difficult later on. Like, dude, I'm not gonna lie, after all the reviews I saw, they were all saying that this mode is like really easy for veteran players and you can just blow through it and all that. But after playing it myself, I've either come to the conclusion that those people are just talking, they're just bragging, or either I'm just really bad at the game because this wasn't that easy for me. It really was not that easy for me. It was actually kind of crazy. I'm not gonna lie, in the later stages I died multiple times. And watching my roster dwindle and wanting to save my best built characters for the later parts because I know that when I get into the later parts it's going to be more difficult. I literally sat there at the character select screen many times making sacrificial decisions because I'm like, dude, I'm not gonna use my last point on my Shogun, but I really need Electro right now. And again, it's like, am I just bad at the game? Because, dude, I'll tell you what, on the last couple of combat stages, it was actually kind of crazy. I mean, it was actually more than crazy. I was actually about to lose my mind. In Act 7, the act before the last, there was just 4 enemies, 2 Cryo Abyss mages, and a couple of Cryo Heralds. I could only use my Yoimiya and the Trio Arlecchino one more time each, because I'd already used them before, but I hadn't yet used my Yanfei. Knowing this to be the fight before the last, I was just going to use my Yanfei and Arlecchino trial in order to beat this stage and save my Yoimiya for the last stage, because I knew the last stage was going to be a little bit harder. But as it turns out, it wasn't that easy, because these dudes gave me the business. They gave me the business. I mean, I died multiple times. It was actually kind of nuts. And so, after multiple tries, I kind of resigned to the fact that I was just not going to be able to beat this with Yanfei and Arlecchino. I was going to have to sacrifice my Yoimiya that I wanted to save. However, for the following fight, I did want to go in with a very strong Pyro character, which meant that I didn't want to sacrifice my Arlecchino either. So, in order to save Arlecchino for the last fight, I decided to use Yoimiya and Yanfei. However, that didn't work either. And after a couple of tries, it became apparent what I was going to have to do. If I wanted any chance of getting past this fight, I was going to have to sacrifice both Yoimiya and Arlecchino. They were on their last Vigor points, which means once I used them, they were gone. And for the last fight, that meant that the only Pyro character that was going to be left would be my Yanfei. Which, sure, my Yanfei is a pretty decent character, but she's not quite the strength that I want to say for last fight. But here we are, that's the situation I found myself in. I could not clear the 7th act with Yanfei, it just wasn't happening. But I did know that that meant the 8th act was going to be even harder because she's all I was going to have left. But out of desperation, that's just what I did. I had to do it. What else was I going to do? And so I put Arlecchino and Yoimiya together and finally got through this stage and made it to the final stage, the Coppelius boss fight. Pyro was recommended, but all I had left was this Yanfei. But not only that, I barely had any good characters left, and it was actually kind of crazy, because I had to put together this crackpot ragtag team of Kaching, Alhaitham, Baiju, and of course, Yanfei. And just like I feared, I really wish I had Yoimiya for this, but I didn't have Yoimiya because I used my Yoimiya just to get here. This team was going to be my winning combination. And this was just as challenging as Act 7 was for me because I died, and I failed, and I ran out of time, and I die again, and run out of time again, and get down to the last hit and fail again, and yeah, it was actually pretty challenging to make this team work, but again, it's all I had, so I was determined to make it happen, and with enough perseverance, I did just that. And it was fun. It was fine. I had a good time. Like, I don't know what was wrong with that. It was, a little bit difficult. It was just the right amount for me anyway. It was no harder than the Spiral Abyss, but I don't feel it was any easier either. It was a pretty good challenge, but instead it just challenged me horizontally instead of vertically. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be some kind of pro or something. I mean, whatever, if that's your cup of tea, so be it. But there's a difference between a pro and a veteran. I'm not a pro in this game by any means, but I am a veteran who has put lots of time into lots of characters and just wants somewhere to use them. And I feel like this kind of did its job in doing that. It made me use a wide variety of characters and didn't let me just use those characters as I wanted. It actually limited the amount of times I could use them, forcing me to go horizontally. Yes, there was some RNG in here too, but it wasn't extremely game-breaking. And I did notice the option there for if you get soft locked because you just can't beat a certain stage, then you can kind of revert back to like an older stage or an older point, like a checkpoint or something. I did see an option to do that. I never did it myself, but for anyone having too much trouble, there is a way to at least go back a little bit if you find yourself soft locked. And the credits rolled and I thought it was cool and it gave me some stats, and then I claimed my rewards and I got a chance to go look at like the little echo things that you can get or whatever. They're kind of trolling putting Chi-Chi in there, like dude. Ain't nobody going for no Chi-Chi rewards, but yeah, whatever. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. I didn't have the terrible time with this mode that I've heard so many others say they've had. I know that for newer players, this mode is quite daunting because they just don't have enough characters to get through it, or even start it. But I do believe there's like an easy mode or a medium mode that allows you to play this mode with fewer characters at lower levels and with fewer stages. Correct me if I'm wrong, but at least that's some kind of bone thrown to newer players. And then as far as veterans go, I don't know what to say on that end. I mean, I get it, guys. I really do. I want somewhere to like use my teams to the fullest as well. Not necessarily characters, but my teams. But it's like, this is not the worst thing in the world either. We have been here a long time, and like I said earlier, I don't just want somewhere to use my best teams. I kind of want a reason to use a bunch of these characters that I just never get to bring out. And even on my account itself, I have tons of characters I've yet to build. I have an Ito, I have a Zhao, they're level 1. Like, I haven't built them particularly because I feel like if I do build them, it's going to be, okay, I invested in them, and for what end? When I'm just going to pull out my Yoimiya team or my Navia team and just blow everything up. But now there's a mode here that tells me maybe I won't be able to even use my Yoimiya. Maybe I won't be able to take out Navia and play Shotgun Impact. My Shan Yun is barely built at all. I have like really crappy artifacts on her, and I don't have any talents leveled. But boy, I tell you, I would have really loved to have used her in this mode. And I bet the next time Animo comes around as a usable element, I'll try to have her ready, because this just incentivized me to do it. I really could have used her. In any case, the mode isn't perfect. No, not at all. But I think it's a little bit better than what everyone's giving it credit for. Like, everyone is really giving it a hard time, and I just don't think it deserves that much hate. There are some fair criticisms to be had with the mode. I do think that they could offer a few more trial characters, like I said. I mean, that wouldn't hurt. And I do believe you should be able to use another support character. But past a certain point, this is an in-game mode, and it should kind of be on you. Again, I'm not trying to be snobby when I say that, it's an in-game mode. And as for the veterans who aren't really very fond of this mode, I don't know, like, I guess I understand your point. Imaginarium Theater could have really tested the limits of our accounts. But there's two kinds of limits. There's that vertical limit, and then there's that horizontal limit. And while I don't think this mode tested us very vertically, I do believe it tested us horizontally pretty well. And I almost failed that test. That's crazy. Okay, I mean, or maybe I'm just bad at the game. I mean, that's cool too, but if that's the case, then I'm glad that there's something within my skill range to play around with. I don't think I'm that terrible at the game, though. I mean, I do pretty consistently 36 star the Abyss whenever I do try it, but it's whatever, you know? I guess what it all comes down to is different strokes for different folks. Some people are wanting their vertical investments challenged, and some others are wanting their horizontal investments challenged. Some think that the mode should probably help out and cater a little bit more to newer players, and others are fine with it being an in-game mode that almost exclusively panders to veterans. Some don't mind the RNG aspects of this game mode and the fact that it tells you what characters you can and can't use, and others might find that it's pretty fun to be able to use characters they never get to use. I'm not saying that people that don't like this mode for whatever reason, whether they are newer players or whether they're veterans, I'm not saying they're wrong about any of it. They can't be wrong about it because it's all opinion. But I just guess what I'm saying is, from my own point of view, I probably should have given the mode a chance first before listening to everyone, because as far as what I'm looking for, it was fine. If anything, I would like it to be a little bit longer. It was kind of short-lived, and I do believe they could have amped up the difficulty just a tad, because even though I did have so much trouble and died a little bit towards the end, it was still something I was able to work through. I want something that frustrates me to like no end. Yeah, I'm kind of a masochist like that when it comes to games. But I'd actually be happy with that, something that just makes me put down the controller for the rest of the evening and just look at my computer angry and frustration for the rest of the day. This wasn't that, but it was fun and a challenging little experience, and I'm pretty happy it's going to be in cycles. And I'll still be heading over to the Abyss to do my vertical investment challenges. But this is okay. I'm fine with this, and I know people are going to think that's insane because praising Genshin in 2024, right? Like, who does that? But yeah, this was okay. I'm not saying it's the greatest thing in the world, but it's a far cry better than anything I expected according to all the reviews I've seen. And, you know, I don't think they're done. Maybe we'll get more stuff in the future, because if you remember, Hoyoverse did say they weren't really gonna be thinking about doing more in-game modes in the same vein as Spiral Abyss anyway. And while this isn't Spiral Abyss, it's pretty similar. Similar enough to where I would think it goes back on their word. Like Imaginarium Theater or hate it, this is an in-game mode in the same vein as Spiral Abyss. So who knows, maybe we'll be getting more stuff in the future that, you know, caters more to the people who feels this mode didn't hit what they wanted. And maybe we'll get boss rush modes, or, you know, maybe we'll get user-generated content, who knows, but I guess my point is, I didn't expect us to even get this much according to what they said a long time ago. So for me, hey, W. And no, that's not copium, and it's not glazing either. I do criticize this game when I feel it needs to be criticized. I've talked about how I believe the game's economy means it should be geared more towards fighting. I've talked about how the game should try to revitalize some of its older systems. I've talked about what a letdown Sumeru's last jungle expansion was. I don't let this game get by with something when I think it doesn't deserve to. But I also sing its praises when I think something's pretty good. Just like that 40-minute essay I did on that potion event. And kind of like I'm doing right now. Imaginarium Theater isn't perfect, but, you know, it's not bad. It's a pretty neat little mode, and I think I'm gonna enjoy the next reset. Feel free to comment and let me know what you think, because I just never see anyone else, content creators, YouTube commenters, Redditors, I never see anyone give praise to this mode. I mean, that's an exaggeration. I have seen some good things said about it, but overall, I don't see that many positive things, so yeah, I'm generally interested if anyone else feels the same way I do. Anyway, yeah, that's what I think about Imaginarium Theater. Could have been more, but it's fine as it is. That sounds like I'm talking about Genshin as a whole.